Hello, everyone, and welcome to Thespie Thursday. This week we have the wonderful Hannah Hauer-King, my glorious friend and directing sensation. How are you, Hannah?
I'm great, Amy. Nowhere else I'd rather be on a Sunday.
Absolutely, absolutely. Me and Hannah did a glorious show together. How long ago was that? Is it 2 years? No, no. Is it?
No,
Wait.
it no, it's just under a year and a half. It's like a year and 3 months, I'd say.
I got
Don't
really scared then.
panic.
I got scared then. I thought, no way. Yes, it's the first time I worked with Hannah, and I have to say, one of the best times of my life. I mean, I tell her all the time, she knows this, but we just, yeah, love working with you. Wonderful director. Yeah, can't wait to work with you again in the future, obviously. But how have you been in this lockdown? And yeah, yeah. How have you been with everything that's been happening? Like, yeah, how have you been in this lockdown 3? How is everything going?
God, lockdown 3. Do you know what? If you'd caught me 2 weeks ago, I'd be saying something different. And it is a really like facile thing. But the weather, right? Lockdown 3 suddenly feeling more manageable. Lockdown 3 generally though was quite a tough one, I think. I
Mm-hmm.
had like, I think there was something about the new year that I thought like somehow things are going to be different.
Yeah.
And had a bit of like work plans in the diary and was being like a bit optimistic. And of course, then lockdown 3.0 happened,
Mhm.
and I went, okay, we're buckling down again.
Yeah.
But I still think, in terms of like creative and feeling a bit, oh my God, I think lockdown 1 was the scariest because everything suddenly went.
Mm.
Like all our plans just went to null, and that was quite dramatic. Whereas I feel like at least with this lockdown, people have got a sense of like making online content now, and yeah, I feel like people have kind of found their feet a little more,
Yeah.
maybe. But yeah, I mean, definitely not easy, definitely not an easy time for anyone.
No, no, it hasn't been. But let's get into the juicy questions and the more positives. How did you? I actually don't know the answer to this question. How did you get into directing? I know obviously you're an actress and you, I think maybe started in acting, but how did that transition happen? Tell us about that.
I love that you think I'm an actress. Like, I absolutely love that, because I think what I said to you, I'm not an actress.
I've seen you act. You're marvelous.
When did you see me act?
As in, like when I'm working with you and I'm watching you, you're a beautiful actress.
I take that as a massive compliment from you. I wanted to be an actress, right? I wanted to be an actress because, like, when you're young, you think, if you're young, and unfortunately, particularly a woman, and you want to be in theatre, people are like, oh, so you want to be an actress. So I thought, and I was like, well, that's the only thing I can do. So that's what I wanted to be. And I really, really loved acting, but it was also quite frustrating experience for me, because I had this sense of like what a good performance looked like,
Mm.
but I couldn't do it myself. So I was
Mm.
like, I know what I want to do. I know what I want this to be, but I can't do it. And it was really frustrating. And but it's kind of how I realized I wanted to be a director. Because I was like, the issue isn't me not understanding performance.
Mm.
The issue is me performing. But I love, I love acting and I love actors. And I feel like, because I had that very brief experience of acting, I hope I have compassion for how vulnerable it is
Yeah.
to be an actor. But yeah, so I stopped trying to act really by the time I got to uni, and very much so went down like uni directing route, and I did a performing arts degree in the US.
Oh.
And then I was like, oh, I'll come back to the UK for like a year and then go back. And then I never went back. I did a kind of assistant role at Soho Theatre, and just stayed and really like fell in love with the kind of fringe theatre scene, and the new writing scene and everything that offered.
Mm-hmm. Well, I did not know this story. I don't know how I did not know this. Would you say is like the most impactful project that you've done? Something that's like really stayed with you, or
Oh, there's a few. The one The one that really comes to mind right now is a show that I did with Damsel, which is the company I run that obviously you know, because we did Lilith workshop with Damsel, and we did a show called Fabric, which was basically about consent and sexual violence against women in both kind of very obvious aggressive forms and more like sinister subtle forms. But what made it so amazing, we did it at Soho, but we then went on a community tour, and we toured around different community centres across London, and we collaborated with an organisation, a charity called Solace, which is a women's charity. And so around these performances that we were doing, we were also leading workshops with Solace, and we were essentially doing pop-up theatre spaces in these community centres. I mean, our team was amazing. Our stage manager, light designer, they were essentially setting up little rigs wherever we went.
Wow.
And it was so amazing to like try out that, and it felt also in essence like a whole new way of doing site specific or community driven theatre. So that was one that definitely kind of stays here. But I'm quite fortunate in that, like, I would say the majority of stuff I've done stays quite close, because I'm quite like specific about the work that I want to do, particularly if it's Damsel, like I'm really, really specific about it. And so it means that when I look at all of our past productions, I'm like, I'm not saying they're perfect, but in terms of what they meant to me, I'm like, yeah, I really 100% believe in every single one of those shows.
Could you do a show that you didn't believe in? Random question.
No.
Even if they were like, I don't know, it was like really fancy and they paid you a fortune, would you be like, I can't do it?
Oh gosh.
I don't know why I've asked you this question, but I thought I would.
Do you know, first of all, I bet I wouldn't get offered it. I think I would do it, but I'd have to put my spin on it.
Yeah.
I'd have to put my spin on it. Like, you've heard me say this, pretty much anyone who's worked with me has heard me say this. I get like obsessed with this question: why this play? Why now? If you can't answer that question, there's a problem. Yeah. If the answer to the question is because we haven't had a Shakespeare in a while, or because this actor wants to play that role, like that's not an answer. Like, an answer is like, because this is really speaking to something important, or this is the anniversary of something that happened 10 years ago, we want to launch it back, or this new writer has an incredible voice. Those are the reasons. Yeah.
I think as well, like in your career, in anyone's career, in acting, whatever it is, if you just follow the things that bring you joy and make you feel something, then you can't really go wrong. Don't go after the things where the money is, or the best things I've ever done are just the things that just bring me so much. Like what we did together brought me so much joy on so many levels. Loved it. Can't wait for us to do it again. But you know what I mean? So I think that's a really good bit of advice, is just follow that spark and that joy, and that's where the magic will happen, I believe.
Totally. I mean, and it's scary, right? And I'll be honest, I haven't had lots of people knocking on my door saying, Hannah, do this massive show, but like it is hard to kind of take those risks, and maybe go down like and tell stories that maybe aren't like as kind of commercial. It can be risky.
Yeah, but also the best things come out of them. Like for me, before Six, now Six is obviously quite a commercial piece, but when we started, we didn't really know what it was, and it had about Henry VIII's wives, and it's a pop concert. It was kind of a weird concept. But I remember at the time I was doing cruise ships. I had my own show on cruise ships, and I was earning good money, and I had this girl band, and I was traveling the world, and I was doing really well for myself. Taking Six was a bit of a risk for me because there was no money in it. We got paid £30 a show or something when we first started. And it was a bit of a risk. And I thought, but you know what? That's what I'm about. I'm about the risks. And it was the best risk I ever took. I wouldn't have met you. I wouldn't have met you, Hannah, if it hadn't been for that risk.
Well, exactly, Aimie. And also like, but you know what? Six is like, and as you know, I mean, I love Six. And Six is one of those like beautiful things where something that is risky, fun, saying something new and exciting also happens to be commercial, and that's when it's beautiful, right? When you've got something that's joyous and it's different, right? Six is different, but you know, it's like appealing to a larger audience. And when that happens, you've got gold dust. You know, I think that's, everybody's talking about Jamie, right? Like,
Yeah.
it's that phenomenon which is so beautiful to see, when new stories and different stories capture people's imagination.
Yeah, absolutely. What do you think is the toughest thing about being a director?
Ooh, that's a good one. What is the toughest thing about being a director? I think the everything that goes on outside the rehearsal room is the toughest thing about being a director. Like the hustle, um, like it's just like, I try and kind of say to young directors, it doesn't go like this. You become a director, you like do a degree to be a director, then you graduate, and then somebody approaches you and says, and then you, hey, you know, Hannah, want to do a show? It's so much hustle, it's so much self-generation, it's
Mm,
so much self-belief, and
mm,
it's so much learning on the job. You know, I think I took one directing class when I did my performing arts degree, but I didn't, you know, obviously you can study directing, but like there's just really so much learning on the job and trusting your gut. And that's quite something. And I think the other thing about the director, hard about being a director, but for me is joyous, is constantly being aware of the full picture and managing expectations of everyone. So you've got the actors who have their expectations, you have the writer who has their expectations, you have a lighting designer who's like, I just want to, you know, and it's constantly like navigating. And then
mm,
if you're a producer as well, which most directors are, you're then going, and how do I do this financially? How do I do this feasibly?
yeah.
So there's a lot of like stuff that you go through to just sit in that room and do your job.
Mm,
Like, I would probably say I spend much more time, well, particularly now, but even before, talking about my job, preparing to do my job, thinking about my job, than actually doing my job. So it's like, yeah, that's definitely one of the harder things.
yeah. There'll be people watching this who will be aspiring directors and will probably not know how to get into it. What do you think is like the biggest bit of advice you can give someone who's watching this thinking, I'd love to do that. I'd love to be a director.
Ah, love it. Absolutely love it. What else? Oh, I mean, there's so much I could say. I'd say, like, don't, if you love theatre, brilliant, but don't do what I do and become tunnel vision at the beginning.
Mm,
Like, one of the best things about lockdown is I've had done a re-education of myself through film and TV. Because I had a point in my like directing kind of career, I guess, where I was seeing so much theatre and consuming so much theatre, and the only thing I read was plays. I had no idea what was going on in the world. I hadn't read a book. I hadn't read like, and that's not, no, like you had, like, part of being a director is being aware of like what's going on around you. Like, if theatre is a reflection of society, or at least in my opinion should be, you've got to know what's going on in society. You've got to know what's happening for people. And I'd also just say, like, be okay with having a side hustle as well. Like, having a side job is okay and normal. Like, do not do it if you want like really like financially stable future. Like, that's not, the more that I see it as a vocation as opposed to like a job, the better it is.
mm,
And, you know, and I think, like, so just being kind of okay about that.
mhm.
And surround yourself with good people, like good people that you trust.
Yeah, so important.
Yeah.
Just in life, really,
Yeah,
surround yourself with those people, you know. Um,
definitely.
and do you have anything that's on your hit list? Is there something inside that you're like, oh, I'd love to do that? Or is there a project that you're working on at the moment that you're like, oh yeah, that's, you know what I mean? Like, what's the thing? What's the dream?
I mean, and you know this already. I love big musicals. I love big musicals, and that is a hit list. And I think new musicals like Lilith, or musical work as well, like the work I'm doing with Damsel and Soho, which is that choir piece I talked to you about,
Oh my
uh,
god, yes.
which I probably shouldn't plug, but it is
No, do
amazing.
it, do it, please, do it.
Yeah, no, it's just our so it's a co-production with Soho and Damsel. Yes, in development. I'm feeling excited. I'm feeling excited that big kind of Damsel projects at the moment that are being developed both have music. But I would also love to just like direct us sometime. You know, like Merrily We Roll Along. I mean, I would just love to direct that show. And I don't usually like to direct, you know, white men shows, but that show transcends that, and it just, yeah, that would be very much so a dream. I also love hair. Do you love hair?
No, I was supposed to do hair like recently, and then we went into this lockdown, so I couldn't do it.
I love hair. I love hair. And that show, I mean, that show blows my mind. So yeah, that would also be a bit of a dream.
Right, we need to do this. Let's do it. Let's put on our own musical. Why not?
Let's do hair on Zoom.
On Zoom, yeah. Final question then.
Yeah.
What do you think is the biggest thing that you've learned in this time, this nearly a year now pandemic situation, about yourself or about anything that's really stayed with you and that you'll take with you going on in your career and life?
Home time is important. Like rest and home time is important.
Yeah.
I think is my biggest takeaway. And also that like I am better at my job if I'm not 100% consumed by it.
Interesting. Yeah.
Like I think, I don't know about you, but like it was so normal pre-lockdown to be out every night of the week, seeing a show. It was so that was really, really normal. And I'm hoping, I really hope I don't go back to that. I mean, I will be at shows, don't worry about that. But like, I will also have those nights where I'm like, maybe it's important to like go and make a meal for my mum, or call someone I haven't spoken to for a really long time, or to watch that film everyone's talking about. Like, I feel like that balance actually makes me a better artist and a better person. So I think that's probably one of my takeaways.
Yeah, that's bang on. I feel quite similar in that when I was, back when we were working, I didn't have any time to actually process any information. I was just like always on the go.
Yeah.
So I do think it's important, about the connections that you have in your life and sustaining them, whether, that just keeping them going as much as keeping your work going, because I think that was really a big focus of mine. Don't get me wrong, I absolutely adore my job, love it, but there's other things going on, like you said. So I love that. Well, everyone, where can people find you, find Damsel, like if they want to check you out, see what's going on?
Yeah, so I'm not on the gram, controversial. I know, the dog's like, you're not on Instagram? What? I'm not on the gram. Damsel though is, I guess Damsel would be, God, I mean,
I'll find it. I will find it, and
I know Damsel's Twitter handle. So Kitty, my lovely Damsel co-producer, mans our Instagram and does a beautiful job. However, I'm part of Twitter, so you can find me on Twitter at Hannah Hauer-King. You can also find Damsel on Twitter at Damsel Prod, and we also have a website. And that's the Damsel. Yep, that's us in all its glory.
Oh, and there's a message from Tom Good saying, "Are you done?" Because he's bringing me prosecco. This is Damsel on Instagram, but like, yes, so they're on Twitter as well. So go and follow them. They've got so many exciting things happening.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Hannah Hauer-King, everyone.
Pleasure. Thanks so much, Aimie. Good to be on.
Mwah.